Hi, and welcome to Dark Window. I'm your host, Jim Mann. Here on this program, I will be talking with many of the leading investigators, researchers, and authors on the topics of UFOs, UAPs, alien abductions, extraterrestrials, and a host of many other fascinating and related topics. So please join me and my guest for the next hour as we reach out. This is Dark Window on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. And hello, everyone, and welcome to Dark Window. I'm your host, Jim Mann, and here in the studio with me tonight are two very special guests, and may I say, friends of mine, Jonathan Dover and Stan Milford. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Now, just to give you a little bit of rundown, Jonathan Dover is a veteran law enforcement officer. He has worked with the city of Winslow, Arizona Police Department, the National Park Service, the Navajo Historic Preservation Department, and the Navajo Nation Rangers. He retired from active duty as lieutenant back in 2012 after 31 years of as a law enforcement officer. Jonathan was trained in criminal investigations and was an archaeological research crimes investigator. He was also trained as an EMT in SWAT operations, hazardous materials, search and rescue, and as an instructor in police firearms training and high-angle technical rescue. During his work on the Navajo Nation land, he also teamed up with Stanley Milford Jr., they were assigned over a period of 11 years to officially investigate and document significant cases involving Bigfoot, hauntings, Navajo, witchcraft, and UFOs. Now, my second guest, along with Jonathan, is Stan Milford. Stan has been a law enforcement officer for many years, 23 years. He attended the University of Arizona in Tucson. He attended Fort Lewis College in Colorado. Stan graduated the United States Indian Police Academy at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Artesia, New Mexico, and then worked continuously as a sworn law enforcement ranger for over 23 years. Stan served as Ranger Recruit, Ranger, and Ranger Sergeant. Stan later served as a Delegate Chief Navajo Ranger for over 2 years. He's a Department firearms instructor, team leader for Special Weapons and Tactics, SWAT, Navajo police officer, Navajo Drug and Gang Task Force. One of Stan's unique responsibilities was overseeing a section called the Special Projects Unit, SPU. It was within this section that Stan worked with John, retired lieutenant. Now, moving forward, enter the paranormal, the supernatural, and cases involving Bigfoot, UFO, extraterrestrials, skinwalkers, ghosts, and hauntings. And Stan and John work together nowadays as a team working within the paranormal and other related topics outside of their regular law enforcement duties. Of course, John is retired, Stan is not, but they work on their own time now and in their own capacity. And gentlemen, welcome. How are you doing today?
Doing great.
Did I get all that right?
Yeah.
That was a mouthful. You guys are, wow. I'm constantly amazed at some of the stuff you guys have done and experienced, what you've been through over the years. And I've known you for about 15 years now. And it's been a while. I don't know how many people really know that much about the Rangers and what you guys have done in the tribal lands of the United States and what sort of capacity you work in, but we're going to find out. That's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to get right into it, guys. How did you guys actually get into the whole how did you get into the whole investigating of the paranormal? How did that start?
I'll let John lead on that.
Okay.
We had over a lot of years, I mean, my whole career, we've had unusual things happening. You didn't talk about it because of the ridicule factor, or as they say, the giggle factor. So every officer out there has had some kind of dealings with paranormal cases, but they're not reported, they're not investigated, they just happen. So back in, I believe it was 2000, we got a case involving a Bigfoot that was up in the mountains. And the family up there wanted rangers to come up and investigate it. The two officers that were assigned, if you knew these guys, they're funny guys. They're both of them were rookies. They laugh and have private jokes all day long. They giggle and laugh, and that's just how they are. Well, Grandma and Grandpa didn't like that they were laughing and giggling all the time, and they thought they were laughing about them. So I like to say, they called my boss, the chief ranger, and chewed him out as only a Navajo grandma can. And and he called everybody into a department meeting. And he told everybody there, he says, from now on, you're going to investigate these seriously. You're going to document them. And then he turned to me and Stan, and he says, and you guys are going to get the major cases involving all these paranormal cases. And that's how we got into it. So we were voluntold.
You're voluntold. That's a good way of putting it. Go ahead.
It wasn't
Stan.
a situation where we had that interest, to, oh, this is, some type of entertaining activity to be involved in, and that kind of thing. It was an assignment by the chief, which he took very seriously.
So in general, this whole business of the paranormal, which is a huge topic, and it pulls in a lot of different facets of the paranormal. You guys investigated all of that.
Yes.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Whatever came down the line, whether it was, like he said, somebody reporting activity with a Bigfoot in the mountains, or sometimes there was office spaces and buildings that were affected by haunting and spirit activity. It could be really anything. And I think over the years, John and I were investigating, across the board, all kinds of different paranormal activity.
Now, on a more personal level, when you guys were pulled into this, like John said, voluntold, do you believe in all of this? I mean, you guys were law enforcement officers. You worked with criminals, and now all of a sudden, here's some paranormal stuff. Did you guys fall into that? Did you believe it?
John and I really don't ascribe to this idea of belief. Whenever we're out there in the public doing conferences and speaking, and we always get asked that, do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in Bigfoot? Do you believe in UFOs? And for us, it's not a matter of belief. Having been trained in criminal investigation, you go into this unbiased into these investigations, and you document and you record evidence, and so it's not a matter of believing one way or the other. You go into it with an open mind, clear mind.
So this is more of like, I've heard it said that true science doesn't care what your beliefs are. Science is science. Investigation, research is just that. It doesn't really enter into your personal beliefs. You guys are going after, you're trying to find out what's going on. John, is that your same?
Yeah. What we did is we followed the evidence. We're taking it just like you would investigate any criminal case. You look for evidence, you document it, you photograph it, you have proof of it. It has to be admissible in a court of law. And we've run into cases actually where we found out that what they experienced had a perfectly natural explanation. So in some cases, we're actually able to show them that this is what you're seeing and it's not what you thought it was. Other cases, the evidence is overwhelming that something unusual happened, and we documented those.
And you have documented evidence of Bigfoots and shapeshifters and things of that nature?
That's correct. All of it, and a lot of it is very perplexing. You can't easily dismiss it, and so we don't like the term belief, because belief is having faith that something is true, and we've seen it with our own eyes. So with the witness statements that we have, and they're thoroughly investigated, so we understand that this stuff does happen.
So you have to be very objective when you go in. You can't be subjective to your own personal beliefs. Doesn't make any difference if you're a very religious person or a non-religious person, or someone that believes completely opposite of the paranormal. It's just a matter of fact, you guys are just going to investigate. That's an interesting way to come at it. What is a shapeshifter?
Okay, I'll speak to that, since is a person who has achieved a degree of knowledge to use a certain type of power. And this power allows them to use the DNA of skins that they possess. So they call them skinwalkers, or skin man is what we knew them as growing up. They can take the hide of, say, a coyote and use that to change into that animal. Likewise, they can change to birds, owls, ravens, foxes, whatever they have the pelt of. I actually had a report from a lady that said that she was driving and she saw a man standing on the side of the road. The top half was human and the bottom half looked like a kangaroo. So apparently this one got a hold of the pelt of a kangaroo and was able to change. They can also mimic other people. So as a child growing up on Navajo, you're warned constantly. You don't leave your fingernail clippings around. You don't leave your hair laying around after you brush or comb your hair. You don't leave sweaty clothes around. If you defecate or urinate out in the field, you cover it up, and you don't leave it out there for somebody to get a hold of, because what they can do is they can change into a version of you and approach other people and harm them. And then, everybody points the fingers at you and says, you're the one that did it.
You suppose coming at that from, say, a more science-oriented way, that maybe if someone could get a hold of your DNA somehow, I mean, technically, could they affect you because they have that something that was your possession that might have your DNA on it? I mean, that's
right.
That's coming at it from a technical standpoint.
The thing is, most cultures have references to doppelgangers, or people having doubles. You hear about that brought up in a reference related to different dimensions, multiverses and things like that. And And so, maybe this ties into those kind of things.
No doubt. You guys have been on cases where you have actually been stumped. You had to turn to the witness and say, I don't have a technical explanation for this. I can't explain this in normal terms. You guys have had to come to those conclusions, correct?
Oh yeah, many times.
But now, neither one of you can answer this. Growing up on tribal lands, growing up as Native Americans, your cultures and the things that you believe in are a little bit different than a lot of other folks in this country. The Native Americans take these things like skinwalkers and shapeshifters and Bigfoot and the paranormal. I think sometimes, in my understanding, more seriously than you might find in the city of New York or downtown LA somewhere. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, it's steeped within the culture of most Native American tribes. We grow up with these references from the time you're a child. It's nothing new. You hear your grandparents and great grandparents making references to these things, to orbs and lights in the sky and spirits and things like that. And it's not referenced in a way that is just for entertainment purposes. It's
Correct.
very serious. So yeah.
I think that personally, I think that a lot of people have paranormal experiences.
Right.
It's just that they don't seem to be open to talk about it for fear of like one of you guys said here earlier. It's the giggle factor. It's somebody's afraid, but you don't see that so much with Native American people because they take it more seriously. Is that safe to assume?
Yeah, I had a young lady speak to me. She said that she was visiting her grandmother. Her grandmother's sitting on the floor on a sheepskin hide, and she's weaving and on a dirt floor in the hogan. She sees a shadow at the door, and she looks out, and there's a 6 to 7 foot disc hovering there. No sound at all, just this metallic disc that's floating in the air. She got all excited and she says, Grandma, look, there's a disc right here. And the grandmother looked up, just kind of glanced and says, oh yeah, they're always around here. And it was like, to her, it was no big deal.
No big deal.
But this young lady, she was, just completely excited about this, and the grandmother is like, yeah, it's normal.
Would you say that, and you guys, either one of you, would you be more inclined to say that because of the remote areas of the tribal lands, especially in northeastern and northwestern, northeastern Arizona, northwestern New Mexico, that whole Navajo Hopi area, and even up into Utah, because of the remoteness of that land up there, there's things that go on up there that you won't see in the city of Phoenix. Correct?
I really think that there's a difference in environment. On the Navajo, you have a lack of lighting. So there's very little in the way of street lighting and
ambient lighting.
So we don't have any ambient lighting out here. You go to Flagstaff. Flagstaff is declared a dark city because of the observatories there, but there's still a lot of light pollution. Mm-hmm. You go to Phoenix, you're lucky to see a few stars at night.
Exactly.
But out here, it's so pitch black at night that you go outside, the whole sky is lit up. You could see the Milky Way with your eyes. And So yeah, you're going to notice things.
I dare say that there's a lot of people who grow up in the city. They've actually never seen that streak of stars across the sky that we call the Milky Way. Well, let's move on. Over the years, what investigations had the greatest impact on either one of you guys? I mean, what can you tell us?
For me, one of the cases that had the biggest impact on me was a haunting case, and it was within an office space here on the reservation. One of the employees was experiencing different types of paranormal phenomena within that building, in that office space. I put together a team of 4 individuals that went in over 2 days and investigated. And one of the most unique things that I witnessed with my own eyes is what's referenced as a port, APPORT. And this is when you have a solid object, a physical object that that appears, that manifests out of thin air. And in this case, in that investigation, over 2 days, there was a total of 65 coins that did apport, and at least 10 of those coins I witnessed. They'll materialize out of thin air and fall into the floor. And so for me, this opened up a lot of these theories that we had about things like dimensions and portals and things like that. Because if you have a solid physical object like a coin that is appearing out of nothingness, out of thin air, then it opens up the idea that maybe these things are coming here in our physical world from somewhere else, whether that's another dimension or another space. You have different phenomena like UFOs and spirits and all of these different things that now could be interrelated because they're traveling from some other dimension or some other space into our physical world. So even things like Bigfoot, maybe that's what's happening in these situations. So that had the greatest impact on me.
So this was a situation where coins just showed up out of nowhere.
Yes.
I know that personally because that happened to me, and both you guys know that.
Right.
Yeah. While at one of the conventions here in town several years back, standing in the middle of the auditorium, there might have been 2 people in that entire auditorium, and I was talking with another individual, and I was actually, maybe this is my fault, because I was actually kind of critiquing the last speaker who had been up on stage. There was maybe 3 people in that whole auditorium that seats nearly 3,000 people. You could hear, I mean, there was an echo in there. And while I was giving my opinion to this other person, being rather negative at the time, I got hit with coins from that person's country.
Yeah.
It was, and I couldn't imagine how could those coins just come out of nowhere. Now,
right.
Here I was, the Arizona state director for the Mutual UFO Network. I had a good responsibility, and I wasn't expecting that, but I had the coins right here in my hand, and I came out and I showed them to both you guys. Yes. And I just couldn't imagine. And then Stan, you told me about this case that you had. Wow, imagine. Now, John, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, yeah, one of the things that Stan didn't mention was that when all those 65 coins showed up, they bounced off walls, they rolled, they spun, and over the 2 days, the coins that were collected were photographed, the walls, measured from the walls where they fell. And all 65 coins ended up heads up, which is a statistical impossibility. And so you can't do that. You can't throw 65 coins up in the air and not expect some of them to show up as tails.
Yeah.
For me, I think the one of the most interesting cases was a young lady that was going home in the middle of the night from work. Was on near the reservation. She sees a red ball of light up in the hills nearby. This light starts to follow her vehicle, and angles in and ends up right where it's right next to her, and it turned into a little ball of white light, maybe about the little smaller than a volleyball, and it was flying along the side of the road. She tried to use her cell phone camera and record it, but it wouldn't show up in the camera. But if she put it out the front, it showed. The road showed. It increased speed immediately, zipped out in front of her, and then made a right angle turn that probably would have killed anybody that was flying it, and shot across the sky looking like a shooting star. She got home and stopped short of where she usually parked because there was a 3.5 to 4 foot rabbit sitting kind of like how a cat sits, and it had its ears were together and straight back at an angle, which is really weird to think about. It had black eyes. They didn't blink. It had a kind of a tan or brown fur peppered with black all over, no markings. And it just sat there. She ended up exiting the vehicle, going around the backside and running for the house. Next day, she said that she had a migraine headache, and up to that point in her life, she had never had a migraine before. So in the investigation, one of the MUFON STAR team members asked us to collect the oil filter from the vehicle. We also took the magnetic readings around the outside of the vehicle. 2 magnetic anomalies showed up. One was in front of the passenger side door. The other one was just to the rear of the driver's door. If you put a string between the two, the line passed right through the driver. So obviously the driver was, a beam of some kind was directed through the driver and created a magnetic field on both sides of the car that was so strong that from 3 feet away, the compass needle would pin to it.
I remember this case. Yes.
The oil filter came out that it had sodium nitrite, high spike of sodium nitrite. This is basically the same stuff that you get with hot dog water. The funny thing about that is that sodium nitrite is not a byproduct of oil, nor is it a byproduct of an oil filter. So that was, and then later on we determined that she may have had what they classify as a screenshot memory. This is some type of alien being that's presenting itself to you, but it's using, I guess, a sort of camouflage in your own mind that you're thinking you're seeing a giant flower, you're seeing some other, like a deer or some other animal that's not going to, frighten the wits out of you. So there
Would that be like what we call a screened image or something?
Yeah. It's something that's put in your mind so that when you see it, you're not just going to go crazy with fear. And this is what she experienced. So, yeah, very unusual case. We did find markings on the ground where this thing had been. Um, the earth there, the dirt, is clay, and it's so hard that you'd have to kick it and kick it and kick it to break the surface. Yes, whatever was sitting there had enough weight that it broke that surface easily.
I remember this case, John. Um, that had to have been about 10 years ago or better. But that was one of the most remarkable cases I think that Arizona MUFON has had on record. And we've had a lot of cases over the years. Now, you guys also had a little bit of experience with the, well, if you want to call it, the Phoenix Lights up in your area there. Am I correct?
Yeah, that was the night before the Phoenix Lights. And this is before we were doing these investigations. I had a brother-in-law that came running in, and he says, "Hey, there's something that just flew, a triangle-shaped craft just flew over the house." And we went outside, and there were these lights that were circling along the horizon. They were going in a counterclockwise direction, and we watched them for 30 to 40 minutes. People in my neighborhood, they shut their lights out on their houses. They brought lawn chairs out in the front, lawn or yards, and everybody just watched this spectacle of these lights, following each other around the horizon. The first one would change color. The second one would follow suit, just like follow the leader. There were about 6 or 7 of them. This kept going on, and they were totally silent. At the end of this, they flew off toward the west, toward the Grand Canyon. I remember calling Coconino County Sheriff's Department, and I asked them, I says, do you have any officers up on the north end of Flagstaff that can verify something for me? And the dispatcher says, no, we don't. What's going on? And I said, never mind, and hung up. Because, you didn't want anybody to ridicule you. So that happened. We thought all the newspapers and TV stations in the world were going to be in our town the next day. And so we were kind of anticipating that. Mm-hmm. And the very next day, the Phoenix Lights happened and totally eclipsed everything that we saw. So, but nobody ever talked about it after that either. The neighbors, nobody talked to each other and said, do you remember seeing that? Nothing. It was just one of those unusual things that happened, and everybody just went on with their lives.
Hey, let me ask you another question. The time that you guys were serving as law enforcement and rangers up in that area, how did your fellow law enforcement officers, how did your peers deal with this? I mean, did you guys get all of these cases, or did any of your fellow officers get some of these cases of high strangeness?
Well, the other officers got these cases. They'd come to us a lot of times and ask us for assistance or what to do. We just got the major cases, and I want to state real clearly that we didn't just do this full time, that this was our life. These cases represented less than 1% of the duties that we had. And but that 1%, less than 1%, became very significant with the cases that we investigated. So rangers would handle these on their own. Other law enforcement agencies were constantly coming up to us and just amazed, wanting to follow us around on the investigations and stuff until they got a radio call and they had to leave.
You guys got all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure that there was a lot of 90% of the time it was normal day-to-day law enforcement protocol and procedures, and you guys took care of what was happening out on the roads, and if a store got broken into and things like that. Stan, let me ask you this. Over the years, and all these things that you guys have investigated, did anything ever actually scare you, or were you ever afraid of any of this stuff?
Well, John and I, we both have similar strong spirituality from the time we were young. And then as you get into law enforcement, once you're trained in things like SWAT and things like this, you learn to be able to go into situations where there's risk, and your training teaches you to focus on the objective or the mission, and to stay focused on that, because you might be in a situation where there's gunfire, somebody may be shooting at you or something, and you got to keep a cool head. You got to stay calm and stay focused and rely on your training to get you through those times. And so as we got into the paranormal cases and stuff like that, really it was just an adapting, from the law enforcement training we had before. In one of the investigations that I worked on at this one residence where there was activity happening with a haunting case, me and the homeowner, he was coming in behind me as I was walking into the kitchen area, and just out of the blue, a 12-inch butcher knife flew out of one of these blocks that holds the knives on a counter and flew about 5-6 feet through the air and went through a grapefruit that was in a basket, fruit basket that was there hanging there. So obviously the homeowner was right there and witnessed everything, and they were quite frightened. But I was able to pull that homeowner aside and just let them know that whatever this is that's generating this phenomenon, this activity, it was kind of obvious that if it wanted to physically hurt us, it had the ability to do that.
There you go.
But the activity was in some way trying to convey some type of message or something there. And so there were things like that definitely opened your eyes. And after you were done, you have that factor of, holy cow, what just happened,
Yeah.
After it was all said and done. But yeah, we've always tried to keep a clear head, and when we go into these things, some of these shows you see on TV today, people are jumping and screaming and running, and
yeah.
And John and I we've never done that kind of thing. For us, I think learning and trying to understand about these different phenomenon and the science behind it and what's involved, I think that's probably the strongest thing that's driving, our curiosity and our interest in this. It's not the entertainment factor in it.
Yeah.
We don't do and haven't done what we've done just for the entertainment of it. And so we've taken it very seriously.
Yeah. So you guys didn't have like a protocol or a reference book. You guys took your own notes over the years. You knew how certain things reacted, and you sort of wrote your own protocols on this. Am I correct?
I'll let John respond.
Oh yeah, we did. We studied, we read books voraciously. Um, in fact, that's how we came to meet you at
Right.
the international conference. Was I had told Stan, I says, "Hey, let's go look at all the crazy people." Um,
Those tinfoil
you
hat
know,
dudes
Tinfoil hat.
down at the city.
tinfoil hats. And we went down there, and as we talked to people, because we were looking for books and
Right.
information, and people, everybody, all the speakers that were there, they were telling us, you need to be speakers. And we were going, no, nah, and then after a while I got to thinking about it, and I thought, I'm getting way too old to worry about what people think about me. So, and then that's when MUFON there invited us to come and speak, and we had never spoken about any of this. And so that's what we did. Next thing we know, we're invited to the International UFO Congress to speak, and from there we just been speaking about it ever since.
Yeah, I remember the first time I seen you guys give a presentation. I was just, I was fascinated with it. Now, um, so there's no real standardized approach to any of this when you get one of these calls, when you used to get one of these calls. And I'm assuming there's officers today that are rangers that now, once you guys are gone, but there's officers today that still handle this up there. Somebody's got to handle it. But there's never been any really standardized way of handling the paranormal up there.
Well,
historically,
we treat it as any other investigation. You go in, you talk to the people that reported it. You're going to ask questions that are, frankly, they're going to be very embarrassing. Do you use drugs? Do you use recreational drugs, prescription medications?
Oh yeah.
When was the last time you took them? We're going to ask you, when was the last time you had any alcohol? We're going to look into your mental background. Are you prone to confabulation? Are you prone to make up stories, to get attention? This kind of stuff. What kind of person are you? We're going to also look at your body language. We're going to look at facial expressions, micro expressions, just like you're interrogating somebody that's accused of a homicide.
Right.
So with all this, and then you're going to follow the evidence, and you're going to let the evidence lead you. And other witnesses, you're going to see if what they have to say fits with the evidence that you have. So it's all evidence-based. And all this time you're writing notes, and you're taking recordings, and you're taking pictures. And at the end, what nobody really talks about is sitting down and writing this stuff up.
Yeah. Now, guys, and either one of you can answer this. Now, when you sit back and you look at your careers and what you've done over the years and these cases that you've handled, Stan, how has it changed your life?
well, for one, I mentioned the apporting of coins, and in and following that investigation, the activity of the apports began happening the following, well, actually that same evening after that case was closed, the activity began happening here in my residence and other investigators' residence. So, and that's continued to this very day. I still have coins apporting here at my residence and places I travel, and they still land heads up for whatever reason. And so, yeah, I mean, these things have impacted your life. But but for me, it's been a learning experience the whole time, and it's allowed me to see that there's so much more to life and to the universe and than what we could ever imagine. It's just
So, John, over the years, has anything changed your philosophies, your take, your theories on life because of this?
Well, it doesn't. It hasn't changed anything. It's just given me an appreciation that we live in a much stranger world than even we think, and this stuff is happening all around us. A lot of times we're not aware of it, or we choose not to be aware of it subconsciously
right.
because it's something to be fearful of. And talking about that fear, I was always told that if you you're being called somewhere and you don't do anything, you're no good to anybody. So do your job. And, especially when it comes to accidents, if you don't do anything because people are bleeding and have lost limbs and stuff like that, people are going to die and they're counting on you. So, in the same way, spiritually, people are counting on you because they're frightened. And the thing that I noticed is that after we get done, we've had little grandmas, that were in their 90s that were actually shedding tears and telling us, "Oh yeah, this happened to me when I was a little girl." And their families around them with their jaws on the floor because they never knew this about their great grandmother, that they had experienced this, and it bothered them all these years until they saw somebody talking about it, and they decided to come forward and tell us about what they experienced.
Yeah. So as very accredited law enforcement officers, lifetime careers, you guys can definitively say the paranormal is something very real at this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And is there a team in the organization of the Rangers? Is there some other specialists up there that do that, or now once you guys are done?
One of the things that you need to understand is at the time that John and I were assigned to do these investigations, there was a unique coming together of the chief ranger at the time, myself, and John. The unique thing among those three individuals is that we were exposed to being educated off the reservation in public schools, and then at the same time spending time with our elders and grandparents and great grandparents and learning the culture and different aspects to the culture. So all three of us, were able to come together and be open about the subject of paranormal. In general, in the culture, a lot of this stuff is very taboo. It's not something you just openly go out and talk about and express, and even making references to the dead and people that have passed on and things like that. So for me and John, we did have a strong spirituality, and having this knowledge and understanding of these things, I think it opened the door for a unique situation. Today, I don't think that really exists. I'm sure, just like John said earlier, the law enforcement in that region have experiences that would be defined as supernatural or paranormal, but I I highly doubt that there is any group of anybody that's dealing with these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
We were tasked in it because there were people within the community, just like John said, they were afraid. And the chief at the time said, you're going to take these calls and you're going to take them seriously and you're going to help people. Because ultimately that's what you're in law enforcement for, to help people and or to protect people. And if you're in law enforcement for some other reason, then you're in it for the wrong reason.
Very good point. We're coming up on time here. We got about 2 or 3 minutes left.
Okay.
Now, Stan, you're still employed. And John, you're retired now. Stan, you're going to continue to remain employed. I know you're still doing law enforcement work. Do you have any? Do either of you guys have
investigation? Yes,
investigations,
but not law enforcement.
Not law enforcement investigations. No. So the two of you, do you guys have anything on your schedule? Have you been invited to speak anywhere within the next few months at any of the conventions or any places like that?
Well, for me, I've been on the TV tour.
Yes, you have.
I've been on Ancient Aliens and Skinwalker Ranch and some other shows. And,
Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, Unsolved Mysteries. So those are coming up, and there's things on the horizon that are coming up. So, and then we're with COVID finally getting over with. We're looking at possibly getting out and speaking some more.
Well, that's great. You guys, both you two, have brought such an amazing amount of credibility to all of this, and I want to thank you guys so much for not only the work that you do, but the credibility that you bring to the entire UFO high strangeness. You help open people's eyes to reality, and that fact seems to be stranger than fiction in our world. True. So, guys, we're out of time. I want to thank you for joining us. So to everyone, I hope you've enjoyed tonight's program with John Dover and Stan Milford. It's certainly been an interesting and enlightening conversation. Would you guys be willing to come back to Dark Window and talk with me some more on maybe a couple other topics?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll set up another time. But again, thank you very much. It's been a great hour. I'm your host, Jim Mann, and along with my program manager, who's behind the scenes, Patricia Wilkinson, and my two guests, thank you. And please join us next week for another engaging conversation as we discuss matters of high strangeness and quite often the unknown. So this is Dark Window right here on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, folks, and good night.
Good night.